The Mad Sword begins by showing a young man skilled at making swords named Gongji. That night, Gongji created a special and invincible sword using a mixture of gold and meteor stones. However, after the sword was finished, a mighty demon entered the sword, and it became possessed by the genie. Therefore, Gongji and 2 monks performed the ritual of exorcising the supernatural spirit from the sword so that the sword would not be controlled by the spirit that possessed the sword. Unfortunately, before the exorcism ritual was completed, a swordsman named Qin Yidao came to his place to snatch the demon sword. Because Gongji refuses to give up the demon sword, Yidao fights against him and his bodyguards in a battle between samurai. After a fierce battle, Yidao, a legendary swordsman, finally managed to kill him and snatch the demon sword from his hands. The following day, when Yidao was about to go somewhere by riding a horse carriage, he saw a boy named Agou who looked troubled and hungry. A mysterious little girl in the same horse carriage as Yidao was kind enough to give the boy an apple. At the same time, a group of mysterious villains appeared in front of him and intended to steal the demon sword from his hands. Yidao had no choice but to fight against those criminals because he wanted to keep the demon sword from falling into the wrong hands. Even though he was alone, he bravely fought against those criminals, and by using the magic power of the demon sword, he managed to defeat them all. But when he defeated the criminals with the magic power of the demon sword, the boy he had previously met was thrown and injured by the demon sword. Yidao felt so guilty about what happened to the boy that he stopped living as a swordsman and chose to live as an ordinary person who cared for the boy. He was even willing to cut off one of his hands to punish himself for hurting the little boy. 10 years since the incident, Agou now lives in a city ruled by a very corrupt kingdom. Due to the very poor condition of the population, the city is full of prostitution, kidnapping, robbery, and various other crimes. That morning, when Agou went to the market to buy some groceries, he was approached by a mute girl who asked him for help to save her from the guards who came from the brothel. However, because Agou could not fight, he chose not to help the girl and left that place. In that market, he is used to seeing various crimes such as theft and robbery, and even murders that occur almost every day. After returning from the market, Agou returns to the house where he lives with Yidao, who has now built a noodle restaurant. He will help Yidao every day to buy groceries and become a waiter when the noodle restaurant has customers. In that house, they live with a mysterious beautiful girl who always eats apples and rarely goes out of the house. Besides being a servant, Yidao told Agou to always cut logs and collect the pieces of wood as fire fuel at his noodle restaurant. One night, a swordsman looks scared and runs from the pursuit of a masked girl carrying a demon sword. Unfortunately, the swordsman was deadlocked and could not escape, so he took out his sword and prepared to fight the masked girl. But before he could attack her, she had already slashed his neck until he died. The following day, at the brothel, the woman who owns the brothel hears that a hitman named Qianji has died. One of her subordinates concluded that the person who killed him was Yidao, the legendary swordsman. Her subordinates investigated the case of Qianji's death and found that the sword wound on his neck was very similar to the wounds of Yidao's victims in the past. The woman who owns the brothel is one of the groups that have been hunting for Yidao's demon sword, but until now, she still hasn't been able to find his whereabouts. She intends to find him and seize the demon sword because the kingdom has promised a huge treasure reward for whoever catches him and gets the sword. That morning when Agou was shopping for groceries at the market, he saw a pair of street singers, so he gave some silver coins to the busker. But when he put down the coins, the busker man suddenly grabbed his hand and said that his hand was the hand of a swordsman. He immediately denied this and said his hand was full of wounds because he often cut logs for the fireplace. In the afternoon, when Agou returned to the restaurant, the 2 street buskers he had previously met suddenly ordered food. After serving him a bowl of noodles, Yidao asked him to go out for a while and look for wood in the forest. Yidao told Agou to leave because he didn't want him to get hurt by the 2 buskers. The 2 buskers were his mortal enemies, and they had been searching for his whereabouts for a long time. The 2 buskers took out their weapons and immediately attacked Yidao simultaneously. Even though he only fought with one hand and only used an axe to break logs, he managed to injure and defeat the 2 street buskers. As the pair of buskers left his restaurant through the forest, they were suddenly confronted by a veiled girl carrying a demon sword. Shortly after, several cavalry warriors came to Yidao's noodle restaurant to order food. The army of warriors was led by a girl named Nongongyan, who asked Agou for directions to the city. After serving food to the horsemen, Agou looked at some of the streets and began distributing some dumplings to them. But the street beggars scrambled and fought to get the buns until they beat him. Fortunately, one horseman helped him, and Gongyan gave him a handkerchief to clean the wounds on his body. Not long after the horseman left, Agou saw a man sneaking something into the horse's food. Seeing the suspicious movements, he followed the man until he found that all the horses belonging to the previous army of horse warriors had died from poisoning. Most of the horseman troop had been killed by a group of street robbers. Not far from that location, Agou saw Gong Yin surrounded by street robbers, so he rushed to help her. Even though he had never used a sword and didn't have much fighting experience, he was determined to fight the robbers alone. Fortunately, all the members of the street robbers group did not have sufficient fighting skills, so he could defeat them all. Afterward, Agou took Gong Yin into his hiding place to rest for a while until she recovered from her injury. That night, Agou prays to God and asks for forgiveness because he feels guilty for killing someone else in the previous incident. The following day, when Gong Yin woke up, she immediately thanked Agou for his help and told him the purpose of coming to the city. She tells that several years ago, her father, a master sword maker, was killed by a legendary swordsman named Agou when his father performed an exorcism ritual on the demon sword. She then asked him to help her find the demon sword that had been stolen by Agou while giving her crystal stone. She explained that the crystal stone would react near the demon sword. After Agou heard the name Agou, he began to suspect that the person who had raised him all this time was the swordsman Gong Yin was referring to. Therefore, he decided to accept the crystal stone to see if his suspicions about Agou were correct. That day, Agou brought the crystal stone to Agou's room to check if he had a demon sword. But after seeing that the crystal stone didn't act, he was relieved that Agou wasn't the killer Gong Yin was looking for. In the evening, when Agou came home from the market, he found that the crystal stone suddenly vibrated and gave off light, so he suspected a demon sword around him. When Agou turned to look at the surroundings, he saw a veiled woman carrying a demon sword, so he immediately ran from that place. After that incident, Agou met Gong Yin and told her that he had met the owner of the demon sword, but the person who carried the sword was not a man but a mysterious woman. He advises her to go to a safer place because he is worried that she will die at the hands of the woman. However, Gong Yin rejects his suggestion because she intends to destroy the demon sword so as not to kill more victims. Hearing this, Agou decided to return the crystal stone to her because he felt he would not be able to face the owner of the demon sword. In the evening, Agou served fresh apples in front of the mysterious girl's room as usual. While putting the apple on the table, he then revealed his feelings to the mysterious girl and said he had fallen in love with her. But unlike usual, she didn't respond to his words at all, so he decided to check her room. While in the room, Agou saw a golden sword very similar to the demon sword carried by the veiled woman he met earlier. He was starting to get scared because he thought the mysterious girl was actually a veiled woman, the owner of the demon sword. When the mysterious girl suddenly appeared behind him, he immediately ran away and fled from the house. After Agou returns to the hideout, Gong Yin tries to instigate him to frame Agou because he is a dangerous former assassin. But Agou clearly refused because he could not betray the person who had been guarding and caring for him more than anyone else. Gong Yin suddenly hugged and stabbed him, hearing his words, before finally throwing his defenseless body to the woman who owned the brothel. It turns out that Gong Yin has conspired with the woman to capture Agou and seize the demon sword to get payment from the royal side. After that, she and the army of women who owned the brothel came to Agou's restaurant carrying Agou's injured body. Gong Yin forces Agou to give up the demon sword, or if he refuses, they will kill Agou. Hearing that, he had no other choice but to fight against all of them alone. In the middle of the fight, Gong Yin suddenly summoned a gunman from the kingdom led by a prince named Li Chong. As a result, Agou died after being hit by several rifle shots from the royal troops. Agou, who saw the mysterious girl flying close to Agou's body, immediately pushed her so that she would not be killed by a gunshot. However, it turns out that the girl is not a human but a spirit that has possessed Agou's demon sword, and her spirit can only be seen by him and Agou. After successfully seizing the demon sword, Gong Yin went to the kingdom with the royal army led by Li Chong. However, without her realizing it, the magic and demon spirit that possessed the demon sword had come out and transferred to Agou's sword. Li Chong, who felt stronger and more powerful after getting the demon sword, started to make a fuss in the middle of the city by arresting the residents and accusing them of being part of a rebel group. In the evening, after celebrating his victory, Li Chong asked Gong Yin to become one of his concubines in his kingdom. A few days later, after Agou recovered, he found a testament from Agou which contained a message that he wanted Agou to grow up to become a swordsman as his successor. After reading the testament, he realized that Agou always told him to chop logs to train his strength to become a stronger swordsman. The next day, Agou starts to wear Agou's clothes and wields his sword, which has become more powerful than the spiritual power of the mysterious girl who always follows him. After that, Agou went to the kingdom and defeated all the soldiers so that he could free the residents who had been held by Prince Li Chong unjustly. After defeating the entire army, Agou faced Prince Li Chong sitting on his throne wearing a mask. But after Prince Li Chong took off his mask, it turned out that that person was not him but Gong Yin. A few days earlier, she had killed him while they were sleeping together on their first night. Not long after, the battle between Gong Yin and Agou began to take place. After a fierce battle with intense sword action, he finally managed to kill her. After that, Agou released the residents who had previously been imprisoned by Prince Li Chong and began leading the kingdom and the city. The film closes with a scene showing the spirit of a girl in Agou's sword who faithfully follows him wherever he goes. The moral that can be learned from this movie is not to betray those who have guarded us all this time, and not to be blinded by revenge that will destroy us.